Haustericulae scorbutici. Ahoy there, scurvy lovers. As you can see, I've gotten my real life PC and wax tablet working, so let's continue where we left off. We were on the ship. We're about to get to the opening cutscene to the ship sequence where Guybrush is trying to motivate his crew before the mutiny. But first there's this when you reach Monkey Island, you can look at the island, try to interact with it. If you try to walk to Monkey Island, Guybrush says it's too far to walk, and besides, I can't swim. So in Latin, nimis procolest praeteriaque natare non posso. So it's, too far away, and besides, I cannot swim. And then, wow, this is well worth the $59.95 plus tax, which is what the game originally cost when it was first released in 1990. My translation looks long because I wrote out the names of the numbers, but instead of using like Roman numerals, but papai mirabile visu etiom tibi constitit tant vunde sexaginta dollaris et nonaginta quinque centissimis ad eticio vectigali vena licio quoque penso. So, wow, wonderful to behold. And for you, it even only cost $59, and one away from $60, and 95 cents. Dollarios and centésimos are used in Neo-Latin context for the U.S. currency pretty often. But yeah, $59 and 95 cents. With an additional sales tax also having been paid. Absolute ablative clause there. So, yep. So, yeah, I guess maybe a slight different, well worth. And here I was like, for you, it only cost this much. Okay. Monkey Island, and then the fuse is an object. Funiculum. So, not a lot of responses for interacting with it, though, it doesn't seem. Okay. And then, yes, we do get to Guybrush trying to give this very unsuccessful motivational speech to his crew as soon as they set out. In the scene just before this, they're very disappointed to see the ship and to realize that they're the crew, that there's nobody else coming to crew the ship with them. And so here we see Guybrush trying to motivate them leading up to the mutiny. So first of all, I'd like to say it's great to be working with such a fine crew. So, primomnio, vobis dicere velim quantum laeter me navigare cum talibus nautis quales sitis. So, first of all, same expression exists in Latin. I would like to say to you how much I rejoice that I am sailing with such sailors as you are, the kind of sailors that you are. Let's see. The voyage ahead is not going to be easy. Num navigatio quae praenobis jacet non facilis erit. So for the voyage which lies before us, will not be easy. It's going to take skill, endurance, and most of all, teamwork. Enim requirentur hacinere suscipienda solertia perseverantia maximeque communis labor. Okay, so I'll talk more about my translation of teamwork in just a sec. But first, so therefore, for it's indeed it will. There will be required in this thing to be undertaken cleverness, perseverance, and most of all, shared toil, shared labor. So there were lots of ways, lots of possibilities for teamwork here. There could have been, cooperatio, but I don't know. I wanted, this is supposed to be, it's kind of a play on the kind of like 1980s yuppie culture, corporate speak. If this game had come out, maybe a few years later, maybe the word here would be synergy. And I thought about maybe I could use the Greek word synergia. But I didn't find any evidence of that ever having been borrowed into Latin, and of course the joke of it being synergy only works, if you're familiar with like the way that's used in English, and then also in Greek, synergia, literally just means working together, but it often has the connotation of like a criminal conspiracy or something. So it probably wouldn't have been a good translation for teamwork. But then I found this phrase communis labor. Somehow I stumbled upon, I don't even know how I found it, but there in some sort of Anglo-Latin medieval legal text, there's this mention of a bridge that is used by multiple towns, and then they have a shared responsibility to all these towns to have the upkeep of the bridge. And so the phrase used for that shared responsibility was communis labor. And I don't know, I just, it's a phrase that, it makes perfect sense. Shared labor, it makes, it would make sense to an ancient person exactly what is meant by it. But it also, it feels, I liked it because it feels kind of propagandistic and just unappealing. The idea, like, don't worry, gang, we'll get through this with our shared toil. So anyway, so that's the translation I went with because it struck me as funny anyway. Okay, and then first I thought we'd assign some duties. Volvitur uno quoque vestrum pauca munera assignare. So I would like, therefore, to assign to each of you a few duties. I maybe over-translated that again. Well, I don't know. I think assign some duties. It's nice to assign some duties to each one of you. I don't know. And then I think this is Otis who starts complaining. What was it we were suckered into doing again? And quibus dolis iterum decepti sumus? By what tricks were we deceived again? And then and then Guybrush, showing off the chores list he made. I made a list. In index pensorum quem scripsi. So look, a list of chores which I have written. And then I think it's Carla then who agrees with Otis. Suckered is right. Recte dixti auto Gaius quidem nos fefelit. So you have spoken rightly. Otho, I'll get to that in a sec. Otis, Guybrush has indeed fooled us. So Otho for Otis. Otis is an English variation of the German name Otto. It has other other forms in other Germanic languages. I think it's a root that's attested in some like Gothic names and stuff, but the name Otto in medieval texts, when they were Latinizing the name Otto, they usually conflated it with the Roman cognomen Otho, like one of the emperor during like the year of the however many emperors was an Otho. But I don't know. So it's kind of like maybe this, Arminios also not being actually a form of Herman, but being conflated with. I don't know. Maybe there's this trend of using these medieval German Latinizations of names that don't that aren't etymologically sound, but they were what was used. But yeah, so I'm using Otto for Otis. But yeah, so you've spoken rightly, Otis. Gaius has indeed fooled us. Maybe I'm over suckered is right, and then but that's part of it. I try, trying to make it idiomatic in Latin sometimes leads me to write more than what's present in the original. To some extent, this might sound weird, but to some extent, I'm kind of inspired by the Ian Desher's like William Shakespeare's Star Wars books and things like that, where he renders the plots of movies, famous movies and things like in the style of a Shakespeare play with Elizabethan language entirely in iambic pentameter and stuff. And part of that, it's still within the English language, but it's the same words expressed in a different way. So I think that's part of this too. Like you're reading Monkey Island in Latin, maybe you want I don't know, kind of a different flavor to how things are expressed too. I don't know. I'm just kind of rambling. Okay, so then Otis then continues. I don't see what the big deal is with rescuing the governor. Non intelligo quid intersit nostra quid gubernatric yacidat. So I don't understand what it matters to us. What has happened to the governor? What has happened to the governor? She can clearly take care of herself. Ipsis sane se curare potest. She herself can clearly take care of herself. The way I look at it, ergo mea ratios taec. Therefore, my reasoning is this. We've got this great ship. Well, we've got a ship. Habemus optimum nauem. Imo potios hanc habemus nauem. So we have a very good ship. On the contrary, rather, we have this ship. Of course, no indefinite articles in Latin, or articles of any kind in Latin. So to express the idea of a ship, I use the, I use a demonstrative pronoun here. We have this ship. We don't have a good ship, but we have this ship. Why don't we kick back, tie a rope to the wheel, and cruise for a while? So, quin igitur animos relaxamos, gubernaculum funibus delegamos, palisperque vagamur. Why not therefore? Therefore why don't we relax our minds? Tie down the gubernaculum is what I'm using to translate ship's wheel. Literally, it was on a Roman ship. It was like a lever that directly operated the ship's rudder. So the relator, or the gubernator of the ship, the pilot of the ship, the steersman of the ship, would sit in the back and use this lever to directly control the rudder. But yeah, it feels like, it's a good analog for the wheel of like an 18th century ship. So why don't we relax our minds, tie down the wheel, or the whatever is controlling the ship, with ropes, and wander for a while. Which does work in the context of a ship floating around. It doesn't just mean wagor doesn't just have to be wandering around on foot. There's really not a good word for cruise, in Latin, because it's, sailing in the ancient world was such a dangerous thing. The idea of, going out on a boat for pleasure. It's not not really something they did, because it wasn't a relaxing thing to be on a boat in ancient times. And then let's see. I think it's Meat Hook who says, I could use a little work on my tan. Ego quidum in sol applicali coloralique vene. So I indeed would like to sunbathe in the sun, and tan and become more colored, more pigmented. These are both attested phrases, yeah. So apericor, to sunbathe, and then coloror, to become tan. So these are both attested words to describe those concepts. And then I believe it is Carla who says, come to think of it, I've been a little stressed out lately. His auditis in mentem mihi venit quantum nuper ego laborare. So these things having been heard, it comes to my mind how much recently I have been working. This is, I'm using, this is one of those like contracted forms. Instead of laborare, it's laborare, which once again, it's that idea of making things feel more casual. I think, I don't know, a lot of the uncontracted forms, the sort of grammar table, if you look up a word on Wiktionary or whatever and see all the forms written out, if you do like a corpus search with like the Packard Humanities Institute database or something, you'll actually find these contracted forms are actually more common for a lot of words than the uncontracted forms that you'd see in the grammar tables. But these things here, it comes to my mind. And then in mentem mihi venit, it comes to my mind. That's a very common idiomatic expression in Latin. Something occurs to you, it comes into your mind. I think I've been stressed out a lot lately. And then, I could use a rest. Itaque mea sententia Paulo lum quietus merio. And so, in my opinion, a little bit of I deserve a little bit of quiet. I deserve a little bit of peace. And then then it's decided we cruise the Caribbean. Ergo constat inter omnes nos antillas otiose circum vectari debere. So, therefore it stands amongst everyone that we ought to sail around the Antilles, sail around the Caribbean islands leisurely. So once again, yeah, there's not really an attested word for cruising. Circum vector was used. If a ship had a route along a coastline, and it would go up and down a coast to hit trading ports. That's kind of how that verb was used. But I suppose if you're doing that action leisurely around the Caribbean islands, right? That's like the equivalent of like going on a cruise. So I think this may have been a suggestion for cruise on the Neo-Latin lexicon. I can't quite remember. But anyway, and then Guybrush just sighs, and then I just wrote up the word for sigh for groan, gemetus. And then this is when Guybrush walks into the captain's cabin and then says I'm doomed. So we saw that earlier. Why mihi peri? Woe is me! I'm dead. I'm dead meat. I have died. I'm doomed. So we translated where this scene continues earlier. Like I said, this is all kind of out of order. But then, yeah, after you reached Monkey Island, you come back and you can point it out to them. So, hey, look, we've made it to Monkey Island. Ecce, at Monkey Island advenimos. Look, we've arrived at Monkey Island. And then, let us know when you found the governor. We've got an extra chair she can use. Bene, refertuat nos cum gubernatric refertuat nos cum gubernatricem Veneris, non nobis est alia cella in qua sedere lecevit. So, good. Well, very well. Good. Report to us when you will have found the governor, for we have another chair in which she will be allowed to sit. So, yep. Something about the Latin makes me feel like there's extra emphasis on that she'll be allowed to sit. Like, she can use a chair. You can't use. You don't need to get to sit down, Guybrush. We don't like you. I don't know. That's implied in the original too, but I think somehow in the Latin it feels get more of that sense. And then when there's out of things to talk to them about, Guybrush can just say, I don't think they're going to be much help. Or maybe this is what it says when he looks at him, but I don't think they're going to be much help. And then one of them responds, you got it, because, yeah, they're not going to be much help. Non putveos multum vadiuturos. So I don't think them about to be... I don't think them about to help much. I don't think that they are about to help much. And then, recte quidam putas. Rightly indeed, you think. Right, so. And then, I don't think they're going to be any help. So, non putveos. Oh, I don't think they're going to be any help as opposed to much help. I'm not sure when he says this versus much help, but... non putveos omnium vadiuturos. I don't think they're going to be any help. They're about to help at all. And then it's the joke of, what was that? Nothing. Quid dixti? Nihil. And then... hold on a sec. Okay, so I think this might be the first time in this translation where we've actually gotten to dialogue options, which is crazy because I feel like that's, dialogue has been most of what I feel like I've been translating, but we had to get this far in the script before we really got to dialogue between characters. But yeah, so Guyver's trying to, after they mutiny, trying to win them over. Hey guys, what's happening? Hello, fellow kids. Basically. Salvete, sodares, quid novi? Hey, comrades, what's new? Is there anything I can do to get you guys to help me? Quid ego faciot vos maduetis? What might I do so that you would help me? And then I hear the weather's pretty nice over by Monkey Island. Audivi caelum super Monkey Island, bene seren vese. I heard the sky above Monkey Island is pretty nice. Pretty, the caelum sereno, right? That's the expression for, the weather is nice. And so, yeah, the sky above Monkey Island is pretty nice. So at least that's when the weather's nice. At least there's an attested Latin expression for describing the weather as the sky is peaceful. And then hey, I found a map to Monkey Island. Ecce tabla quae vio monstrat ad Monkey Island. Behold, a map which shows the way to Monkey Island. And then I'm going to give you mutineers 5 seconds to come to your senses. This code is for when a line goes onto 2 lines in the dialogue tree. This is one of the things when I'm testing things out, I really have to keep an eye out for. Because if I make the lines too line, they'll go off. If I make the lines too long, they go off the screen. And if I try to make my own sort of like split lines using codes like this, I run the risk of things covering up other things. So I might have to end up shortening some of my translations in these. So when I'm testing these out, if I'm playing through the whole game to test out the translation, I'm going to be keeping an eye out for all situations like that if something's too long. But yeah, I'm going to give you mutineers 5 seconds to come to your senses. And then this continues on when you choose that dialogue choice. Guybrush continues, or I'm going to kick your butt. But so my translation does kind of trail off with an ellipsis. So it's not a complete sentence, but it shows that it's going to be finished in a sentence in just a sec. So. Nisi vos seditiosi turbatores statum recipiscetis when eonque petetis. So unless you seditious troublemakers recover your senses at once. This is a word that has the meanings of like if you've fainted and you're coming back to your senses, in a literal sense, or if like someone's has bad behavior and then they realize there are other ways. It's used in both those senses. But unless you seditious troublemakers come to your senses at once and beg for forgiveness. And then we'll see later how I translated, I'm going to kick your butts. But that's where that's leading to. And then I think I'll be getting back to tending to the ship. So you just give up talking to them. Equad namum curandum iam redio. So I am now returning to caring for the ship. And then beat it, Guybrush. apagete, guy. So, yeah, get yourself out of here. Get yourself out of here, Gaius. Get yourself out of here, Guybrush. And then, let's see. And then, nice try, Guybrush, but no banana. So I think Otis says this to you if when you try to say the weather's nice by Monkey Island. So and so okay, so this nice try, but no banana. So this is like a play on on an idiom like the but no cigar, which I don't even know the history of that expression. I don't remember. I don't know if it was like based off of an old game show or something, or what the origins of the no cigar expression. But I like the mention of bananas, and I kind of turned it into a hint about later in the game in a weird way. But well, here's what I did with that. Tuum conatum laudo gai, sed nos persuadere velut arienis simiae non possimus. So I praise your attempt, Guybrush, but we cannot be persuaded like monkeys with bananas. So I know the meaning of the idiom is different. It's like oh, it's a good effort, but you don't get a prize. Versus here, it's like we won't be persuaded that easily. You're not offering us enough. So, but it still accomplishes the same idea of telling Guybrush that they're not going to fall for it again. But then and then this idea we can't be persuaded like monkeys with bananas. It's going to maybe subtle foreshadowing or subtle hint for later in the game, where you do have to befriend a monkey on Monkey Island by giving it the bananas so it can hold down the lever for you to enter the monkey head, or not enter the get past the gate to the monkey head. And then then I'm going to start kicking butt. Okay, so here's the rest of Guybrush's threat. So if they don't come to their senses, I'm going to start kicking some butt. And then vobis nates calque posabo. I just went I went literal. I will strike your buttocks. I'll strike the buttocks for you with my heel. I think calque pulso. I think this is found in at least once in like a Plautus play or something. Someone threatening to strike someone's buttocks with their heel. So the Romans didn't go around talking about kicking butt as often as people do in modern English, but it was at least an idea expressed every once in a while. And then I guess I really expanded the line. So excuse me, Guybrush, does the word Keelhaul mean anything to you? So so I guess the excuse me, Guybrush. So it looked like I added stuff onto the response to him threatening to kick their butts. Maybe because it's such an unusual threat in Latin. Abstene calcum nostris anatibus gai, ne nos te supplicium sumamos. So keep your heel away from our butts, Guybrush, lest we take punishment from you, or whether we this expression supplicium sumo dialiquo, to take to punish someone, to take I don't know. To take punishment from someone in English means the opposite, but to punish someone yes, this is what this expression means. So keep your foot away from our butts, or we'll punish you. And then that leads into the threat. Does the word Keelhaul mean anything to you? Hoc enam te rogo, skin quid significat verbum xulagogio. So this indeed, I ask you, do you know what the word xylogogium means? Xylogogium. So okay, so Keelhaul. So this was quite a dive to try to translate this, because there's lots of sites that you can find, that will say, you try to look up the history of the practice of keelhauling, and you have lots, it's on Wikipedia, it's on lots of places saying that that perhaps the first mention of keelhauling comes from the Byzantine era law book, the Lex Rhodia. But without, nobody provides any more detail than that about where in the Lex Rhodia, or what the exact word for keelhauling is in the Lex Rhodia. But I found an old, 19th century bilingual Greek-English edition of it that I was searching through, or at least an annotated version of it, trying to find, okay, what is this reference to keelhauling in this ancient source? And yeah, it is a hapax legomenon. This word, this Greek word, zulagogion, is described as a punishment for stealing on a ship. Someone is to undergo this punishment. This wood leading is all the roots mean. It's not very descriptive, but they were to experience whatever this was 100 times. And then in like the annotations, I think the author mentioned that maybe there is some like medieval lexicographer that described a meaning for this word that sounded like keelhauling, but there's but this 19th century author didn't know what this medieval sources what their source for that is, and then but yeah, it seems like the meaning is very contested, and it seems like it there's not a lot of evidence that it means like dragging someone under a ship, actual keel hauling, but this is the word that everybody's referring to. This is the word that might mean keel hauling. So I just I put the and I Latinized it, and then but yeah, the only way I would thought I could get away with using such an obscure word, though, right? Is that it's about to lead into this dictionary joke. So yeah, does the word keelhaul mean anything to you? And then you can say, I see your point, thanks. Or you can click on this this line to be a smart aleck. Although Guybrush doesn't actually say it, he still just says, "I see your point, thanks." But you can give a dictionary definition of keelhaul. So keelhaul, one, to haul under the keel of their ship as punishment or torture. And so, yeah, so because there's this opportunity to define this word, I thought I could get away with using such an obscure word. So we'll look at what I did there in a second. But in Telugu, et vobis cōnīveō, I understand and I concede to you. So if you give up the point, concede the point to them. But then, okay, so then my dictionary entry here, tsulogogion, tsulogogii, nautram. So it's second declension neuter noun. It's a Byzantine Greek hapax. I'm not sure what this would be standing for in Latin. Byzantina Graeca lingua. Hapax in lege urolia. So Byzantine Greek hapax found in the Lex Rhodia, and then the definition. Modus poenae trahendo sub carinam navis, so a means of punishment by dragging under the keel of a ship. And then since I have this extra room here, just to make it even more especially clear what it means. I included Batawike Keelhauling, so Dutch Keelhauling, because the English word is borrowed from Dutch, and the word, and I think a lot of modern languages borrows from the Dutch word, but it's just sort of like as a last thing. Here's a translation in a modern language, and then I like the idea of sometimes if you find some sort of weird 18th century Latin dictionary with Latin definitions or whatever, sometimes they'll just randomly have translations in modern languages just as an aside, and I just like the idea that I don't know, maybe there's this weird random Dutch, this obscure word is only found in this Latin to Latin dictionary that also includes Dutch translations. I don't know, but whatever. That was my attempt to write, hopefully a sort of dictionary entry that would be amusing in a similar way, and informative about what is this reference to keelhauling that apparently existed in the ancient world. Okay, and then, but yeah, even if you try to be a smart aleck and you click that entry, Guybrush still just says, "Intellego et vobis cōnīveō," I understand and I concede to you, or the I see your point, thanks. Okay, and then I think this might be Meathook who says this to you, but yeah, excuse me, Guybrush, you're blocking the sun. So trying to tell you to go away, and of course, how could I resist a reference to Diogenes here? Famous story, Diogenes and Alexander. Alexander coming to seek out his wisdom of the cynic philosopher, and then telling him, get out of the way, you're blocking the sun. And maybe I made the reference too obvious. I don't know, but nos que mihi gai nolo cunicus videri. Excuse me, Guybrush. I don't want to seem like a cynic. Maybe that's spelling it out too much, but I don't want to seem a cynic. Said officis vide licet mihi applicanti. Numquam Paulolo inquam a sole. So this is a direct quote from, pretty much a direct quote from Cicero's account of the story. But you are evidently interfering with me sunbathing. Now, indeed, I say a little bit away from the sun. Implied step away from the sun. So this is, again, pretty much a verbatim quote from Cicero's account of Alexander's encounter with Diogenes. And then, let's see. I don't know if this is when you tell them you found the map, but yeah, they're not impressed. So what did I do here? So cuidad nos, what's it to us? And then, oh yeah, on its own, if it just had I don't know. I felt like to express the meaning of someone shouting "yeah" in agreement, I had to write a little bit more. So, hai bene rogato, uh, cuidadnos. So ha ha ha. Well asked. What's it to us? I think it's probably Otis who says so, and then it's Meathook who says yeah. So here it's like Meathook being amused by like uh, I don't know, amused by how Otis responded. So, what's it to us? Ha ha ha. Well asked. What's it to us? And then put the quotes in there because he's like repeating it. And then and then when you do look at Monkey Island once you've arrived, holy monkey butters, it's Monkey Island. Um, Euro por sacras vesicos simiarum nos ad Monkey Island advenimus. Nos ad Monkey Island advenisse. So I swear upon the sacred bladders of monkeys that we have arrived on Monkey Island. So I made that, pretty literal. I don't know. It's funny too. Sometimes when people in like modern literature and stuff, when they try to put something in a classical setting, a lot of characters say like, by Neptune's beard, and like all these really funny things. But like there's no attested. The Romans didn't. Yeah, there's no attested versions of Romans swearing upon funny things like that. But if you were going to swear upon something, this is the expression, and Euro per, I swear upon. So you swear upon. You could use the name of a god here, so per iome or whatever, but or on an object. But yeah, holy monkey butter. It doesn't make any sense. It'd be very confusing. But sacras vesicos simiarum. I swear upon the holy bladders of monkeys. And then, and then you light the cannon, and then you didn't put gunpowder in it, so it doesn't go off. Hey, the cannon didn't go off. Hey, ubi fit slopos, tormentum nil fecit. Hey, where was the boom? The cannon did nothing. Slopos. Yeah, I don't know if it. I think it's classically attested as like a sound made by. It's the sound if you inflate your cheeks and you slap them. I think is the way it's used in like a Roman comedy. It's that sound, and then in a medieval context, it's used then to describe the sounds of explosions and stuff, and then like a word for gun is like sklopitos, I believe. But and then the STL turns into an SCL in a lot of medieval sources. The STL, it's such an unusual, phonetic pattern for Latin, but it seems to be that's what the onomatopoeia was for that. But where was the kaboom? There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom. A little bit of a Marvin the Russian inspiration there, I suppose. Let's see. All right. Okay. Better leave it here. Oh, piece of paper. Oh, I think there's like a note the cannibals wrote announcing a meeting. I think that's what that piece of paper is. But so obviously back on Monkey Island now. Hicem relinquisatios puto. So I think it better to leave it here. Eon, because it's referring to the carton. Carta. And then they look like they're almost ready to fall off the tree. I'm not sure why that break is there. I don't remember if it's like one falls and then Guybrush finishes. I don't know. I forget why that's in there. But And he's looking at the bananas on the trees, looking at luscious, juicy bananas. Paini kasurai videntor diabere. So they seem almost about to fall from the tree. And then arienas praedulces succosasque. So bananas, very sweet and juicy bananas. And I don't know, sucosos is a very literal translation of juicy. I don't know if juiciness is a quality that you want bananas to have. Maybe to me that's if I ever had a banana that was secreting fluids, I might worry that it might be a little overripe. So I don't know. So maybe it shouldn't be literal, because a literally juicy banana doesn't sound very appetizing. But I don't know. That's what I went with it. I don't think I'd ever describe a banana as juicy in English either. So who knows? And then tree, abare, and then those are some luscious looking bananas. And praedulcis videntor haec arienae. These bananas seem really sweet. Seem really, really delicious. I don't know what that voice was. And then, okay, so I think from this beach you're on, I guess this is another clue, right? You're on the beach with the banana tree, and you can see the tall cliffside in the distance from here. So that's a clue that maybe it is possible to launch something to the beach from there. But yeah, if you do look up to the towering rock in the distance, the Praiolton Rupe, so the very, very tall rock, very high rock, very high cliffside. But yeah, I bet you can see the whole island from there. Ilinkut puto, tot insula, these elisions. Ilinkut puto, tot insula spiki potest. From there, as I think, the entire island can be seen. And then if you've already been there and you look at it, that's the place with the great view. Est il locus qui mirabilem prospectum praebit. So it's that place which offers a marvelous view, a marvelous looking forth view. It's a substantive view is the best translation. And then looking at the jungle, or at the silwang, deep, dark, foreboding, profunda, obscura, infaustaque videtur. So deep, dark, and ominous, it seems. And then that's strange. Oh, so you're looking at the rowboat on the shore, Scapel, the rowboat, and then that's strange. It says sea monkey, and sea monkey is the name of your ship. Bombax, verbis sea monkey inscriptast. So strange. It's inscribed with the words sea monkey. And yeah, I decided not to translate the names of ships either. If I did translate sea monkey, then I'd have to make a decision about, like, do I use the scientific name for, like, the brine shrimp that I used as sea monkey, or would I, like, I don't know. Certainly easier to leave it as just sea monkey. And this is the rowboat that Herman and the captain took to Monkey Island from the sea monkey that you've just found here. And then some bananas fell off the tree. So some bananas have fallen down from the tree. Bananas. Arienas. And then look at a banana. It's yellow. Flawast. It's yellow. Flawast. For the ariena, individual bananas. And then, it looks like a giant cotton swab. So, monkey head key. So this is the, Clawam capitissimi, the key of the monkey head. So, okay. So a giant cotton swab. So it's a giant Q-tip. So the key to open up the giant monkey head is a giant Q-tip that you stick in the monkey's ear. And in the original EGA release of the game, they actually used the word Q-tip, the actual brand name, and they got sued, and they had to change it to cotton swab. But that's what it is. It's a giant Q-tip. And this is like I wasn't finding any Neo-Latin reference to a Q-tip or anyone, at least that I liked. Maybe I saw some suggestion of like, small brush for cleaning out ears, or like I don't know, because it's a giant small, I don't know. And then if this weren't an object that appeared on screen as a visible object, I would probably translate it as like the Roman equivalent to a Q-tip. The tool that the Romans used for cleaning out their ears was a little spoon called a ligula. Like literally a little spoon they'd use for scooping out earwax, and then a spoon on one side and have like a little pick on the other side. I don't know. That would have been the Roman equivalent of a Q-tip, but this is an object you see on screen, and there's lots of animation that goes along with it. So, I have to translate it as what it looks like. But then I was thinking, well, okay, what would it, the Romans didn't have Q-tips. What would it look like to them? It's this long stick with these two pads on each side. And it occurred to me, it might look to a Roman person like a double-sided cōnīveō. And so if you don't know, a cōnīveō is an artifact found in the remains of Roman public toilets, and it's mentioned in some surviving graffiti and in the writings of Seneca. There's a description of a gladiator who dies by suicide using cōnīveō. Anyway, the conventional, it's a sea sponge on a wooden stick. The conventional explanation for it, for the traditional explanation was that this is what the Romans used instead of toilet paper. That they, wipe themselves with this sponge on a stick, and then they would clean it by dipping it in a channel of running water, or in just like a bucket of vinegar, and then it would be like a communal thing, and then they'd pass it around to the next person. This is kind of the story that gets passed around of like the gross thing that Romans did instead of toilet paper. But there are some more modern archaeologists that have kind of called that into question. Like there's no attested sources that explicitly say that's what the Romans used it for. And so it's kind of been proposed by some archaeologists that maybe it's just a toilet brush for cleaning toilets, like we use today. Because there's some evidence of people using, like they found like remains of cloth and stuff. So it may have been like other cultures that may have used like old rags and things. I don't know, but whatever the case, whatever the cōnīveō was used for, that's kind of what this giant cotton swab looks like. It's like a long Zulespongia with, two sides to it. So I thought, that's how I'll translate. I'll translate it what it would have looked like to a Roman person. So, longum Zulespongium biceps videtur. It seems to be a long, two-headed toilet sponge, toilet brush. Now, okay, that does cause me some issues down the road after kind of committing to that, because this is still in the game. This is still something that you stick in the giant monkey head's ear, and so and there's hints too where other characters are like, oh, his ears are so gross. The giant monkey head is nasty waxy buildup in its ears. It's so gross. To give you kind of a hint, although I think, and of course the fact that it's a Q-tip itself, is obvious that she's in the ears. But now that I'm making the player associate this object with something else entirely. When I get to those hints, I had to include things to make you think of Roman public restrooms. Again, like trying to awkwardly, the monkey's ears are as dirty as a public, as a public toilet on a festival day or something. We'll get to that. Whenever we get to those lines, we'll see what I did. But I had this, I cornered myself in this awkward situation where I need to get the player to associate this monkey's ears with Roman toilets, which is strange and unfortunate, but here we are. And then there's one more banana, Ariano, and then you look at it, it's yellow flavast. And then see other objects on the screen. There's a memo here, cōnīveō, and then if you already have gotten the oars and put it on the rowboat and oars, scapum cōnīveō, rowboat with oars, and then but then if you this is the screen where you first find the rowboat, so here's where you can put the oars on it in the first place. And so when you put the oars on the rowboat, I can paddle it with these oars. Hiseremi scapum propellere potero. So I will be able to propel the rowboat with these oars. But if you try to use the rowboat and you don't have the oars yet, I don't have anything to paddle with. Nilabio quo remige. So I have nothing with which I might row. And then the monkey can follow you around, so you can appear on lots of screens. So Simeon. And then talking to the monkey, Ukip. And then and now finally we're to some people's favorite character. Now we're to good old Herman Toothrot, or Arminius Toothrot, as I'm calling him here. And boy, oh boy, was there a lot of Herman Toothrot dialogue to translate. Maybe once I start into Herman, I don't know what a good stopping place is going to be. So maybe it'd be good to stop here and save Herman's dialogue for the next video. So, yep. Thanks for watching, and valete.